So we pretty much reached the end of another season in the Championship, so now would be a good time to look back at some of my predictions from earlier on in the season, and I'm not going to lie to you, I had some absolute shockers, which we will go over today. So I want to know from you guys, let me know down below, what was the prediction that you got most wrong at the start of the season? Who's been the most surprising team in the league this year? And how's your side done compared to your expectations as well? But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into looking at my predictions from earlier on. So we'll start at the bottom of the table. As you can see on screen now, that was who I was predicting to have in my bottom three. To be honest, I don't think that's that bad of a shout. I got 2 of the 3 relegated clubs correct. I had Rotherham finishing bottom, Bolton second bottom, which is where they are. And I then had Reading for that 3rd relegation spot as well. Rotherham have actually done better than I thought they would do. I thought they'd be the outcast at the bottom of the league. I think they probably surprised a few people as well with how competitive they were. Just couldn't quite manage to stay up. But myself, like many people, was predicting them to be in the bottom 3. Bolton 23rd, I got that one pretty much spot on. Throughout the summer, the club wasn't really looking like it was going to go anywhere, and this whole season for them has been an absolute disaster. And then in 22nd, I did have Reading. I don't think that that's that bad of a shout. If they still had Paul Clement in charge of the club, and if they didn't have the January transfer window that they went on to have when they signed the likes of Emi Martinez, Nelson Oliveira, and some other big names, then they probably would have gone on to get relegated. So I stand by that bottom 3 as saying that that's not that bad of a prediction, actually. Moving up into 21st, though, is when I had my first real clanger of a prediction. I put Hull City to just narrowly avoid relegation. When I looked at all the turbulence that Hull were looking like they were going on over the summer, you know, I think they released about 10 or 12 players. They really seemed to lose the span of the team they had there last season. I didn't really think that Nigel Atkins will be able to steer that ship much further away from relegation. But Hull have been a real surprise package this season, with goals from Bowen and Grosicki throughout the year. At one point, it even looked like they could go on to make the top 6. So I apologise to Hull, I got that one pretty wrong. In at 20th, I had Wigan, which isn't actually that bad of a shout, really. I saw them being in and around the relegation battle, but I didn't see them going back down into League One. I thought they would have enough to survive. I thought they had a decent transfer window with some of the players they signed. I must admit, I didn't really know a lot about Reece James before this season had started, but he's really been their starlet so far. But overall, I'm actually quite happy with that Wigan prediction. In 19th, I had QPR, and that is exactly where they are in the table at this point in time, so I'm once again happy with that prediction. QPR had a bit of turbulence over the summer themselves with everything that was going on with the EFL. They were hit with a pretty hefty fine, had a transfer embargo throughout January as well. QPR have had a really bizarre season though, because at one point they went on this miraculous run under Steve McLaren after starting the season really poorly. It looked like they may even go on to push on for the top 6. They then had a crash back down the table, and they've not really been in a relegation battle all season, but they find themselves in 19th at the moment. So overall, not a bad prediction again. But then in 18th, I had put Ipswich Town. I had faith in Paul Hurst. Ipswich have let me down this season, finishing rock bottom of the table. Ipswich before this season had always been, you know, a very established club in the Championship. I probably should have expected a bigger drop off from Ipswich after selling, you know, most of their key players going forward. But before the season had started, when Mick McCarthy had left the club, there really seemed to be a sense of optimism around Ipswich. You know, it was a new brand of football that was coming in. They signed a lot of players, albeit from the lower leagues, but they had potential in there, and I was quite excited to see how they do. Last season, Bill Kowski was probably one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship. I thought that that would be enough for them to survive this season, but that's not been the case. They've pretty much been rooted to the bottom all season, actually. I had a bit more faith in them, but that's not paid off this season. Then in 17th, I had put Birmingham. Once again, another spot-on prediction. That's 3 so far. Albeit, I did get a little bit fortunate with this Birmingham prediction. They wouldn't be this low in the table had they not had that points reduction earlier on. Last season, Birmingham really struggled for goals. They didn't do much in the transfer window, so I thought the same would be happening this season. But Gary Monk's done a terrific job there. You know, if it wasn't for that points reduction, they would be higher up in the league. I wasn't fancying them for much, but they have pleasantly surprised me with how resilient they've been throughout the season. And for a lot of the early months, up until probably like the turn of the year, they look like they may even go on to challenge for the playoffs, really. And considering how thin that squad is in some parts, Gary Monk and Birmingham have done a terrific job. In at 16th, I have put Blackburn Rovers. Not a bad shout from me. They're a little bit higher in the table at the moment after they've looked to end the season well with 4 consecutive wins. But I fancy them to be the best of the promoted sides coming back up, and they have done that this season. Billy Mowbray's done a good job there. A couple transfers which haven't really worked out for them, but overall I think it's been a very solid season considering it is Blackburn's first year back in the Championship. They wanted to establish themselves this season as really sort of a mid-table club so they can go and kick on from that next season. I did have a few question marks at the start of the season over Bradley Dack and whether he would be able to adapt, but with his goal scoring record this season, I don't think there's a doubt that he has gone on to do that. In at 15th, I had put Millwall. I was expecting them to have a bit of a drop-off from where they finished last season, but not as dramatic as it actually has been. They're only just above the relegation zone at the moment. I predicted them to finish in 15th. I thought they had a decent sort of mid-table squad in there. The way way they played last season with a real resilience and togetherness was always going to be tough to break down. This season, that's not as much as that's been on show, actually. There's been quite a bit of inconsistency threaded throughout Millwall's season, and at the start of the season, I fancied them to go on and do a little bit better than they have. But then we get to 14th, and without doubt, my worst prediction so far. Oh dear, I predicted Norwich to finish in 14th, and they've gone on to get automatic promotion and probably will go on to win the league on the last weekend. Oh dear, I had an absolute shocker with this one. Hear me out while I try and justify why I put Norwich in that position. At the start of the season, I've got to be honest, I really wasn't fancying them. Last season, Daniel Farke, the performances were quite bland from Norwich. They didn't have much going forward. They just lost Murphy and Maddison, two of their best players from last season. Some of the players they brought in from the German league last season hadn't really worked out. I thought the same would happen this season. I thought that Buendia would be a flop. I couldn't see the direction the club was going in, and then out of nowhere, they've just completely blown me away. And they made me look a little bit silly with that one, really, haven't they? Not many people were fancying Norwich for the top two, so I'll take some confidence in that. With 13th, I had Bristol City. This one, yeah, I'm pretty off with this one as well. They've gone on to really push for the top 6 this season. I fancied them to be in sort of the bracket below that in lower mid-table. Lee Johnson's always been the manager who I've been a little bit split on, really. His Bristol City sides can tend to be a bit gung-ho, very momentum-based. They go on a big losing streak, a big winning streak. And although they flirted with the playoffs in previous seasons, this season has really been the year where they've really tried to establish themselves as part of that top 6. Defensively, they have really sorted themselves out this season, which wasn't the case in previous years, and they have impressed me. They've gone on to do better than I thought they would. In 12th, I had Sheffield Wednesday. Not the worst shout ever. They're a little bit higher than this in real life. I looked at that group of players they had. I thought they're probably capable of pushing on for the playoffs. They have done that this season, but it did take them to sack their manager and bring Steve Bruce in. The start of the season, Sheffield Wednesday, you know, were in absolute shambles with some of the performances going on. They've not had a great track record with injuries over the season. However, predicting them to finish in 12th with that group of players, I don't think it's the worst shout in the world. I think that Wednesday fans now will just be looking forward to next season to see what Steve Bruce can do with this group of players for a full season when he's had a full pre-season behind him as well. So finishing in 12th, not the worst shout in the world for me, I don't think. And then in 11th, I had put Aston Villa. I got a bit of flack for this one. At the start of the season, when Villa were under Steve Bruce, a lot was wrong with the club, you know. Players were being played out of position, the performances weren't brilliant, and when Steve Bruce was sacked, I think Villa were around about 11th in the table as well. So had they gone on and kept Bruce for the entire season, this could be where they did go on to finish. Obviously, there was no way of me knowing that they'd go on to, you know, get Dean Smith, sign some of the players they went on to sign, and then have this incredible unbeaten run. I think Villa were a really tough team to predict coming into this season. Looking at their squad, it is probably one of the best in the league, but I just thought at the start of the season they were being mismanaged a little bit, and I just couldn't see Steve Bruce taking that group of players back to the playoffs again. I thought they'd have a real drop-off after last year, but they've surprised me under Dean Smith, so fair play to Villa. In at 10th, I had Swansea City. This one's pretty spot on. They're 11th in the table at the moment when I'm recording this video, only separated by 10th through goal difference. I thought that Swansea had potential with quite a young squad to go and flirt with the playoffs throughout the season. I didn't necessarily think they had the experience in there to do that. Graham Potter was a bit of an unknown for me as well as to how he'd do with his first season in charge of the club. But overall for the season, I think that Swansea have gone on to meet my expectations, actually. With some of the players they sold, I thought it would be really tough for them to go on and bounce straight back up into the Premier League, make the top 6 straight away. But finishing 10th and building for next season, not the worst season in the world for Swansea. And then we have another pretty botched prediction. In 9th, I had it to be Sheffield United. So the top 2, the teams who have gone on to get automatic promotion, I wasn't fancying them for much this season, to be honest. I hadn't even put either of them in the top 6. It just goes to show how unpredictable the Championship is. I kind of like the fact that that's happened and I was so off with these teams. And I suppose it just goes to be a testament to Chris Wilder as to how well he's done with this Sheffield United side. When I looked at Sheffield United's team with some of the other sides predicted to finish above them, I thought they'd have a real good case for the top 6 this season, but the final few months they just fall short or something like that. But with their consistency and how well the new players that have come into the squad have done for them this season, they've completely blown my prediction out of the water, so fair play. And then to finish in 8th, I had Leeds United, another side currently in the top 3 who I was like, yeah, they won't make it into the top 6, will they? But no, Leeds United under Marcelo Bielsa, you have to think where my mind was at. You know, watching Leeds last season, they were absolutely awful. And Bielsa, you know, came into the job and didn't really make that many signings. The majority of the squad was kept exactly the same, and when I looked at some of the awful performances from Leeds last season under like Paul Heckingbottom, I thought, surely, as good as a manager Bielsa is, he can't get a song out of this Leeds squad to go and and challenge for the top 2 this season. I thought they'd be in and around the playoffs in the last few weeks. They bottle and just fall short or something like that, but they've exceeded my expectations for this season. Bielsa has done a terrific job there, and even despite them missing out on automatic promotion, I still think, you know, just compare Leeds now to where they were this time last season. It's still been an amazing job done by Bielsa. They've still got a chance at promotion via the playoffs, and I mean, that's going to be a fascinating watch because I wasn't fancying them for it this year. To just miss out on the top 6, I have put Brentford in there. I was a little bit off with this prediction. They're currently 15th in the table. What probably didn't help Brentford was Dean Smith leaving. You know, they went on a bit of a bad run after that. Defensively, they've had a few issues this season, and their away record hasn't particularly been anything to shout about. I was fancying them to be a bit of a dark horse for this season. I thought that with the way they play football, the way they like to put teams to the sword, especially at Griffin Park, I thought they'd have a real chance at the top 6 this season. That's not come off for them. And then we get into the top 6 predictions, and this is where it gets a little bit annoying really, because in 6th place I had predicted to be Preston North End. Honestly, when I put this video out, there was absolute outrage in the comments for everyone saying, oh my god, this guy's just a biased Preston fan. Genuinely, hand on heart, I thought we were going to make the playoffs this season, and I know I've said it, I sound like a broken record, I've said it over and over again. If we didn't have as many injuries as we went on to accumulate this season, then maybe we could have gone ahead and snuck in there. You know, we started the season, we were awful, we were bottom of the table after 10 games, we really picked ourselves up after that, looked like we may go ahead and sneak in there on the last day, but the last few weeks we've fallen off a little bit, and we're sort of comfortably mid-table now. Above Preston in 5th place, I had put it to be Nottingham Forest. I was really fancying this Forest side this season. I thought they had a very impressive transfer window under Ita Karanka as well. I thought that everything was falling into place for them. You know, they signed a striker in Lewis Graben, who's pretty much guaranteed goals in the Championship. João Carvalho, who had a lot of pedigree coming over. It just looked like a very good squad. Albeit under Karanka, they were, you know, in and around this position. They were just below the playoffs, I think, when Karanka left. Since him going, it's been a bit of a weird season for Forest. They have won their last 2 games, but the performances as a whole have been very up and down for them. So all in all, I was a bit off with that Forest prediction, but all things considered, I don't think it was, you know, the worst thing of me to presume that that Forest side could finish in the playoffs. And in that 4th place, I had West Brom, another spot-on prediction here. Thank God, it's been a while since I've had a decent prediction like this, but I did fancy West Brom to be challenging for near the top of the table at this point in time. I didn't see them going on to get automatic promotion, but with the squad they had, with some of the individual talents they've got in there, you know, the likes of Jay Rodriguez, Dwight Gale, Harvey Barnes they had at the time, I thought this West Brom side really would cause some damage in the league. And I've got that one spot on, so not a bad prediction from me there. But then my top three was just pretty bad really. In 3rd place, I have predicted it to be Middlesbrough. In fairness, at this point, I believe when I recorded this video, I think Adama Traore was still at Borough, so if they had him this season under Tony Pulis, maybe they would be a little bit higher up in the table. When I'm recording this, they are currently 7th, so they're just sat outside the playoffs on goal difference at the moment. I never anticipated it to be a pretty season for Middlesbrough, but I just thought with the way that Tony Pulis is, it'd just be a real sort of dogged, they'd scrap out loads of 1-0 victories over the season. I didn't think they'd concede many goals, albeit I did think they'd score a few more than they have done this year, but I probably overestimated them a little bit and the way that Tony Pulis likes to play football. And then we get into my top 2 predictions. Now bear in mind, I have predicted Norwich to finish in 14th, Sheffield United to finish in 9th, and Leeds to finish in 8th. So who did I fancy to be better than all those sides this season? Well, in 2nd, I had put it to be Derby County. I got laughed at a bit in the comments for predicting this one, but I looked at everyone's pre-season that everyone had, and Derby were showing some really good signs in pre-season under Lampard. The players they'd signed as well, you know, bringing in the likes of Harry Wilson, who was brilliant this season before at Hull. Mason Mount came in with a lot of excitement. The season before that, Derby had missed out on the Premier League through the playoffs. I thought that with Lampard coming in, bringing the new philosophy into the side, I thought he'd really hit the ground running, and Derby would just go on to excel this season. They've fallen a little bit shorter of that estimation, albeit they are where they're, you know, probably supposed to be in the table at the moment. They are sat in 6th place, and looking at their squad to compare to everyone else's, that's probably where they should be. I probably overestimated the impact that Frank Lampard would maybe have on this side, but I really thought they'd go on and do something this season. I thought they'd play some really good, attractive, fast-flowing football going forward. That has been the case. It's just been defensively at times they've been cut out a little bit, and injuries throughout the season haven't helped them. But then 1st place, yeah, it was Stoke. Of course I was predicting Stoke to finish in there. Go and find me a comment from that prediction video who didn't have Stoke somewhere in the top 6 at least. Pretty much everyone had Stoke to win the league this year, and looking at that side coming down from the Premier League, I genuinely thought they had everything in there to go on and bounce back. They had Jack Butland, you know, one of the best goalkeepers in the league. They had a really experienced defence. Their midfield looked good, you know, Peter Etebo I thought would be an excellent signing for them. They got Joe Allen in there, Ryan Woods, who's been one of the most underrated midfielders in the Championship for the past few years now. Going forward, they have players like Tom Ince, who's always been excellent in the Championship, Benik Afobe, who is a proven goal scorer, and Bojan as well, who I thought would really go on to excel this season, but none of that has really happened for Stoke, and they found themselves much lower down at the moment. They had a manager in Gary Rowett as well, who I thought, you know, he's a manager who knows the Championship. It's that sort of cliched thing, but I thought that that would really have an effect with them. But nothing like that has come off, and Stoke find themselves in 16th position in the table at the moment. So even though I was way off with that prediction, I don't mind it all too much because pretty much everyone else was thinking the same as me at that point. But as you can see on screen now, guys, there were my predictions from the start of the season. So let me know down below what you think of these ones. Who do you think was my best and worst shouts from these? Because there were some dodgy ones in there. But guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So do let me know in the comments down below what you made of my predictions from earlier on in the year. But if you did go to enjoy, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.